I think ops people are very smart and have a lot of different skill sets. And when they when you tap them into like the more strategic long-term side of the business, you're able to work with the business strategy and the technical side of ops. I think those are your like real superstars and great teams that I've seen. There's not a lot of ops professionals, that whether it's sales ops or rev ops, and you're starting to find these small communities, whether it's local or online, that's really bringing those people together. And so, I'm part of a couple, the Revenue Collective, not sure if you've heard of that, but that's been a great resource that I've found just to connect with like-minded people. And like you said, share best practices, share tips or struggles that you're having with certain tools, tips on your tech stack, on comp plans, on territory planning. And so I think it helps that, it helps the whole industry for that role, right? Because it's kind of like we're in it collectively. And the more that you hear these different types of support functions get created, the more attention it gives that role within the organization. So yeah, it's been exciting to see how it's grown for a while, because I've started as a sales ops analyst like almost 10 years ago now. And so I've always been in sales ops at SaaS companies, and it's definitely got a seat at the table now.
Well, actually, this is something I would love to ask you about. But you're right. I think it's one of the features of the pandemic is that people are still searching for those connections and communities, and thus we've seen some awesome community projects like RevOps who are just fantastic. Grow up, So actually, let's take it back to that. Like, I'm really interested to know from your point of view how RevOps and SalesOps was perceived in organizations a few years ago, and where it is now, and where we think it's going.
Yeah, for sure. So I think initially, a lot of organizations would structure their ops teams in silos within each department, and they would be kind of treated as like either like a technical admin to help, with any issues with the CRM or different tools that are being used, or like an analyst where they were asked to run numbers and basically just focus on reporting, whether it was like, more probably performance reporting. But either way, those two functions were like, keep the lights on day to day, very reactive and ad hoc environment, kind of like an individual contributor that's just there to support the team move along, whether it's sales, CS, or marketing. And, I think that came with its own challenges. And I think organizations, as they started to scale, as technology got better and more integrated, the introduction of RevOps, or like consolidating your ops team across all those different siloed departments. So rather than having marketing ops, sales ops, and CS ops, for example, work totally independently, you have one RevOps team where there's alignment, or even one person that's able to manage the process across all those teams, right? And what that did was just give leadership so much more control and visibility into the whole customer journey. There's one place that you can go to trust the full funnel management, the full life cycle management, and RevOps became that layer or lens for the executive team into actually what was going on. And so I think that's one huge change, is that it just kind of elevated, every organization is making more database decisions. You're scaling teams up faster. You have more remote workers, so you need to make sure that the technology is there to support their productivity remotely. So all of those things are projects that fall under RevOps. And I think the best organizations that I've worked with that have succeeded in their growth targets have been the ones that have leveraged RevOps to be more of a strategic role than a tactical role. And it's about leveraging all of those insights and process and operations to be a leader of revenue and kind of identify and drive the business forward towards your go-to-market strategy, rather than I think early days, ops, you wouldn't hire ops until you had 100 people, and everything would just be flying off the wall. And then ops was here just putting out fires all day. It's a very tough environment to be in. It's still for the ops professional. No one likes to be in that job where you're just putting out fires every day. I think, like you said, I think ops people are very smart and have a lot of different skill sets. And when when you tap them into like the more strategic long-term side of the business, and you're able to work with the business strategy and the technical side of ops. I think those are your like real superstars and great teams that I've seen.
Yeah, okay. And you raised a really great phrase there I wanted to just repeat. It's the difference between being strategic and tactical. And
Yeah.
I've not heard someone put it like that before, so just wanted you to expand on what you meant by it.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'll share a couple of my own examples, and hopefully that will help explain my experience. But I think one of my jobs that I joined at, the CEO on my first day was like, "You have 3 months to convince me why I need to hire ops."
Right.
Right? He thought that it was too early, that
Yeah.
things are running fine. Sure, it's in an Excel sheet, and every deal we get is like a fire, but it's not stopping us from doing business. So why wouldn't I go hire another salesperson? So, but like that was the tone he set, right? And so I wasn't being involved in any of the management meetings, the strategic meetings, leveraged by other business units. I was solely there to serve a tactical purpose, which was to be the administrator for the tech stack and be the analyst for any reporting related to like the sales team, or performance reporting, compensator reporting. But so I think from like tactical, it's more about like what are the actual jobs that this person will do, and it's a lot of tech stack work and reporting work. And then I worked in another company where I was kind of given given the leeway to build a RevOps team and kind of centralize all ops from their different siloed functions. So, in the interview process, I proposed my philosophy on how I would centralize what they have created under one RevOps team. And that included, tech stack and Salesforce administration. That included sales enablement. That included a data analyst to handle all of the reporting. But then the last key pillar on my team that I like demanded was strategic planning. Being part of all those conversations, leading the sales pipeline reviews from a data perspective to identify trends, to ask the right questions, rather than just reactively at the end of the month be asked to pull numbers. And I think that's the difference where involving RevOps in your go-to-market strategy and your marketing campaigns and planning and segmentation. There's so many skill sets that RevOps has or sales ops has that I think are beneficial across the cycle. And I think the best SaaS companies, and I think it depends on your business, right? SaaS is a very interesting environment where it's about recurring revenue and it's about advocacy and how a lot of tech companies, the amount of research online that the buyers are doing before they even engage with your sales team, and how you need to like track and align that. So I think SaaS is like the perfect combination for sales ops professionals.
Yeah, okay. Let's delve into that SaaS question, right? Because literally an hour ago, I spoke to someone and it was their opinion that you get revenue ops people who are particularly interested in aligning revenue teams and especially customer success because of this monthly recurring revenue model and the fact that churn is something you really need to avoid in SaaS. And I was just wondering, in your perspective, would you agree with that? Why are we seeing the rise of RevOps in SaaS? And like, what is it about SaaS that's leading to the specific way in which RevOps has become alive in our industry?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Again, something that I've experienced firsthand, where there's been a lot of new business coming in, but there's no strategy or alignment with CS on who those customers are. And so the revenue numbers at the top line look great. You know, in some cases it can lead to a round of funding, which leads to growth and hiring. But with SaaS, you know, there's implementation, there's adoption, there's measuring how much they're actually using the tool. And a lot of times, I think and a lot of times, you know, it can be a different person bought it and a year later they're no longer at the organization. They see the line item, they just cross it off, right? So I absolutely think I agree with that statement. And I think that, you know, RevOps has become so important in a lot of ways because they are the expert on buying SaaS within the organization, right? Like I myself have to evaluate any tool and do a demo and go through that whole process similar to how you are selling, right? And I will be given a CSM rep. So I think, again, RevOps professionals can share their perspective of how other companies do it, because it's not just the experience from where you're working now. So I think that's, you know, great sales teams should be asking RevOps, you know, forward me emails that you get, like, have you seen a demo? Can you check out these tools? And so RevOps is constantly evaluating the tech stack, looking at different tools, looking at what tech's out there, integration. So I think for that reason, it works well specifically in SaaS, as, you know, as an industry. And then the other thing too, I'd say is, because RevOps works with sales, CS, and marketing, I think it's really important to understand your go-to-market strategy or your ideal customer, you know, who you want to target that are going to renew, adopt your tool, become advocates, whether it's a persona or an industry, and then kind of like reverse engineer that and into the accounts that you import into your database, the lists that you build, the territories you assign to sales, how you segment marketing campaigns or nurture campaigns, right? And so I think RevOps has a lens into all of that. And a lot of times, sales ops or RevOps professionals will just work with sales and marketing to, you know, set up campaigns and build out territories and everything like that, without caring enough about what happens after they become customers. So I think the best RevOps professionals and organizations like bring CS into it. And, you know, you should be trying to build a lookalike audience of your most successful customers. And so I think like that's the last missing gap that I think a lot of companies are addressing now. And, you know, it's definitely been exciting. A lot of conversations I've had as well with RevOps professionals where it's no longer just sales and marketing. It's definitely the full customer journey.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you know, when we talk about it like this, the argument for alignment seems so clear. But you've had personal experience where people haven't been bought into RevOps being that strategy driver and that alignment kind of facilitator.
Yeah.
Now, let's take two companies, an A and B. You know, it's easy to imagine, but it does help to spell it out. What the implications on company A, where alignment is perfect, and company B, where leadership haven't bought into alignment? Like, what do we see happening in the company here, besides the fact they probably won't close as much revenue?
Yeah, I think like churn and product adoption are huge, but it's tough, right? Because those are metrics that take time to come into play. I think the other difference though too is just on the culture and the way you work as an organization and the way you get things done, and how people enjoy going to work and work together and collaborate. You know, your employees will certainly feel it in their day-to-day, and your customers will certainly feel it in their interactions with the organization, right? I think it's often overlooked on the customer experience, but when you're getting passed around from rep to rep throughout the sales cycle, when you have to re-explain why you bought or what your requirements are, and it, you know, it just feels like you're dragging on in the same spot, you know, that's still very common. Even the organizations that do it well, it's very hard to avoid that broken telephone throughout the sales process, right? So I think like you said, ultimately you will see the financial impact. I think you will see the product adoption impact over time in working, targeting the right customers and having that alignment. But I think most of all, like short term, it's your employees and customers for sure.
Yeah, okay, that's fascinating, right? um I want to put this to you and see what you think, but I read the LinkedIn post the other day which said, to some degree, the art of outbound selling has really gone down. I mean, like there's less of an incentive now to create excitement for the customer, less of an incentive to educate them around your product. What many SDR teams are really doing now, they've fallen into this natural thing where it's just about booking that meeting. And I
Yeah.
think for that buyer, it can feel incredibly disjointed. And I was
Hmm.
wondering, would you agree with this? Is this something you've seen, and what the implications on that for what an SDR or what an outbound sales team how they should conduct themselves?
Yeah, no, I definitely have seen that.
Mm,
I think part of it is it comes with the SDRs have a tough job, man.
mm, mm,
It's a tough role. And I think part of it comes with the growth targets that they have to hit, right?
yeah,
Depending on the sales environment that you're in. But right now is a very, tough time to even be cold calling as an
yeah,
SDR. Just given what's going on in the world and everyone working from home. And so, but they have to do it. They have to stay
yeah,
persistent, right? And so,
yeah,
I think the best thing that any SDR could do right now is really just um, give buyers more credit than you think, right?
yeah,
Like, give them the resources and let them educate themselves, but not don't be forceful in the process,
yeah,
because I think a lot of times in my interaction. That's been the case. It's just like,
mm,
let me force feed you this sale or educate you on a topic, and you'd be surprised how much buyers already know. But
yeah,
having said that, um, I think like another thing they can do is understand the value in your second or third at bat with a
yeah,
company. So maintaining that relationship over a long period of time, you know you're not it's very rare to close the right customer on the first call,
mm,
right? And so the impression you make, the relationship you have over your second and third, maybe even fourth meeting that you have with them, there's more value in that, right? So I try to help my SDR team stay focused. I use our basketball analogy where, or we can use football. Why not? I'm a big football fan, right? So
okay,
let's, you have your imagine going into a penalty shot,
yeah,
right? And knowing where you've had the most success and where the keeper is the weakest and where you are most likely to score, right? Based on data, we're giving you the path to success. That's essentially what RevOps is trying to do with our SDR team and sales team. You have this massive territory with all of these accounts, all of these different places you can shoot the ball.
yeah,
But we win in some places, we lose in some places. We don't even get to the door in other places. So we have to practice, we have to plant the seeds in those environments. But where we're ready, where we've taken our 10 practice shots and we're ready to go, like that's where we should be focusing on now. And the other ones is more just like you're going to go through the motions. You're going to log your activity. They're not going to be ready to talk to you now.
yeah,
In 3 months, they will. But here are 50 accounts that we know we can win. And I think it's just about like giving them that focus, right? There's two ways to hit your numbers. You can focus on a small amount, or you can just like spray and pray. And I
yeah,
think it's just maintaining that balance.
yeah,
But they need help, right? Not every SDR should not be running reports and doing territories and trying to
yeah.
figure out where their best shot is. So that's where I think RevOps has a huge role to deliver that to them.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And it is a very hard space. I mean, I think it's increasingly hard because of the thousands of products out there, the thousands of
Hmm.
SDRs, and the people like you who become the vector for all of this messaging. So yeah, I like that kind of consistency approach, and it's
Yeah.
something that people talk about as being really important in the SDR function. A question for you, Adel.
Yeah.
If you were in a room full of RevOps and SalesOps leaders, like the best in the world, the people you really look up to, what do you want to ask these people?
So a bit of a selfish question, but I would ask, who should RevOps report to? That's like my biggest curiosity, and I think everyone would have different answers. You know, just going around the room and asking each RevOps professional, who do you report to? I think that's one gap that still needs to be figured out. I've reported to marketing, sales, CFO, VP of CS, so basically every role except actually even the CEO in smaller organizations, right? So I think without a CRO at the table to lead it, a lot of directors of revenues, RevOps managers, things like that, still get passed around from team to team. So I think reporting structure would be my biggest questions.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's actually a debate I've been having with people recently. You know, their question is, or is there conflicts of interest there, especially when you're doing comp planning? So that is a really interesting question that is on the community's mind. Adel, another one for you. You know, we all have parts in our life and our career that we want to improve upon, to expand upon, hills we still want to conquer. What are your hills that you still want to conquer? Or essentially, you know, where are the personal and professional improvements you want to make in yourself?
So I'm a continuous learner for sure. I just finished my MBA earlier this year. And
Nice.
I'm starting, thank you. And, starting another graduate diploma, next week in CSR and sustainability. And so, not sure how it's going to play into, my profession in the long term, but I think just adding to my toolkit and continuing to, combine technology and some aspect of CSR and sustainability in the future is definitely a goal that I'm working towards. Outside of that, I think wanting to have more of a global exposure or global experience, based in Toronto, but have a British passport and lots of family in the UK. My MBA took me to South Africa, Brazil, Dubai, Budapest, India, China. So in the last year and a half, I traveled so much and got a taste for what it was like to work and live in some of these international cities. And so I think for me, even taking this call with you being in London and me being in Toronto, talking about RevOps, I had a chat with another RevOps professional in Amsterdam about a month ago. So I think it's just opening my eyes to how big the industry is, and hopefully I can get myself some international experience and tap into that network a bit. But yeah, no, for me, I think I'm in this transition phase, having just finished my master's and doing this next bit of school where I'm really trying to figure out what I want to do long term. But I think the RevOps skills that I had, or I'll share this with you as well, actually. A way that I was able to translate what I do professionally with RevOps into a volunteer organization that I'm working with on the side. But basically, trying to create for a community or for a volunteer organization that helps with immigrant families who are looking to develop skills, find employment, whether it's language or other technical skills with working with a computer, to try and help them, find stable careers and kind of settle into the communities. And basically the organization was looking for a platform or a technology to track each member and all of the programs that they've been a part of in order to measure their success and the impact that this organization has had on their life, to be able to provide that measurable impact, right? So it's a really interesting challenge because it's evaluating tech. Are we going to use a case management tool? Are we going to use a CRM? What technology are we going to bring on? But then the other aspect is each of these members are like customers, and in sales ops, you're trying to create this single view of a customer that's consistent across all of these different teams and interactions with your brand. And in this volunteer organization, the organization's trying to create a single view of this member and all of the different touch points and offerings or services that they've participated in, to be able to measure the impact that the organization's had on those families.
Yeah.
And so, you know, so that's something that I think indirectly just RevOps has kind of resonated with me now, where everything is like UX and design to drive adoption is super important, and RevOps has given me that, and then like this consistent understanding or view into your customer, or you know, across any industry. I think there's so many skills that RevOps has given me that I'm hoping to combine into something interesting.
Yeah, you know, that's such a powerful mission, and I like the idea that, yeah, essentially RevOps people are these project managers, right? Who can learn to handle so many different departments, peoples, and relationships. It sounds like it's a powerful place for you.
Mm-hmm.